Oh, lucky you. You get two community shows this week. That cup is empty. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my community show. Yeah. Anyway, so you may be thinking to yourself, but Steps Basic, why is it just community show on the Monday instead of on the Saturday like usual? Well, quite frankly, I legitimately forgot that Saturday was Saturday. It was weird because last week had Memorial Day on the first day, but then my daughter was out of school, so it threw off my week by one day. And so it's like Saturday wasn't Saturday, Saturday was Friday. But why didn't you upload the other videos that you usually do on Friday? I'm like, well, I can't really explain it. But anyway, that's enough of that. Announcements. Oh, lucky you. You get two community shows this week. That cup is empty. Anyway, so announcements. First of all, my buddy Bubble Ninja, whom I play 7 Days to Die with, has suffered a terminal computer error. And unfortunately, he doesn't have the money to replace his computer. And that's understandable because computers are expensive to replace. And unfortunately, that also means that's probably an end to my 7 Days to Die series, which is, here or there. But anyway, we bid a fond farewell to my buddy Bubble Ninja unless he decides to change his mind again, which could very well happen, but I'd rather him not stress himself out too much. But, without a computer, he's limited to live streaming his PS4 stuff. Apart from that, my own announcements. Still working through Borderlands, having fun with it. And last time we did the Circle of Slaughter and other stuff, but whatever. But anyway, on today's topic. I'm going to try to talk slowly for this one because I've tried this topic 3 times since yesterday, and I ramble and I get ahead of myself and I miss things and I forget things. And of course, at the same time, I'm wondering, why the heck did I say I would do this? I'm a 35-year-old man, divorced, well, mostly divorced, separated, and haven't dated for 10 years, over 10 years now. Why am I doing this to myself? But you know what they say, as things change, the more things change, the more they stay the same. And there are certain things that can apply now as they did back when I actually dated, which, to be honest, wasn't really much of a dating guy, as it were, back then, because, I have had 2 girlfriends in my entire life, and that's fine. But that's not what's important. What's important is the fact that, yes, I may be a divorced 35-year-old man who hasn't dated in over a decade, but I listen, I pay attention, I watch. And I've also seen that there are a lot of bad tipsters out there regarding dating. And I don't like them. And I don't like them spreading bad ideas around. And moreover, I don't like them spreading a nugget of good idea buried within a pile of steaming hot shit. So as it is, I'm here to kind of talk about this in a more structured manner. When it comes to dating, there's always 2 people involved. Now, if you're just looking for a hookup, I'm sure you'll find somebody who's willing to go for a hookup. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about dating and relationships and how important, and a lot of the more important parts to it. Now, I'm going to assume that you've already made it past the point of asking somebody out and whatnot, because honestly, that's something I can't give you any tips on, other than be confident, be yourself, don't lie, don't lie about anything, because the lies always come to the surface. And, be polite and accept rejection when it comes, when and if it comes. Because rejection is not an insult. It is simply saying that the person is not interested in you. And I know the classic example is the nice guy on the internet, but they exist among the whole spectrum of all the genders. They exist everywhere. There's the nice girl, the nice guy, the nice NB, doesn't matter. There are evil, stupid people out there who cannot take rejection. even if the classic example is always the nice guy. So, assuming that you have made it past the initial phase of, hey, I want to date you, got to remember, moving into a relationship like this, a dating relationship, not an initial date, because there are tips I can give on that as well, but moving into an actual relationship, you're going to want to remember two things. One, there are two people involved. Not just one person, two people. So you're going to want to remember that your emotions, your feelings are just as valid as your partner's. Never sell yourself short for your partner. Do not give too much immediately to the relationship, but do not hold everything back. When you're entering a relationship, it is creating the foundation for trust and relationship and eventually, hopefully, happiness. So when you're entering into a relationship, you cannot, one, give up too much of yourself because it can be scary, or two, expect your partner to give up everything. And that goes, again, across the whole line there, men to women. Don't expect too much and don't give too much, because it is a process. And remember, marathon, not sprint. That is a mistake I learned from my own relationship, from my own marriage. Because when I was younger, I kept getting this idea pushed on me to share all of your feelings with your partner. And I shared all of my feelings with my partner. And I had, unfortunately, those feelings used against me. And so it has built up a bit more of a wall against sharing my emotions. But there is an importance to sharing your emotions, so your partner knows who you are and where you're coming from and can approach just how you want them to. And the same goes both ways. You want your partner to share with you, but not too much, because it can be scary. By the time you're finished with the dating phase and move into the marriage phase, you two should know basically who each other is. That doesn't mean there's not room for change, which leads us to part two. People change. And that goes for attraction and appearance and emotions. How people deal with things and how people experience things. They will change over the years. As a young man, I was incredibly awkward, very weird, and liked to do things that looked stupid. Looking back at myself now, I'm like, I was a very cringeworthy youth, and I don't like myself back when I was a kid because I did some stupid things. Nothing really offensive or violating or anything, but I did some stupid things when I was a kid that really affected my appearance with other people. Hi, kitty. Stop making a mess on my table over there, please. Thank you. But people do change, and even now, as a 35-year-old single man who has not dated in over a decade, I continue to change and grow. And there is an old saying, the day you stop learning is the day you die. And that is very true, because you learn things every day, even if they're very small, minuscule things that you might not even notice you learned them. You learn things every day. You change, you grow, and you continue. And that may mean that the relationship that you're in now will not work. And unfortunately, this happens a lot with distance relationships. Because one thing to remember when it comes to relationships is you grow together. But if you're apart, you deviate. Now, of course, that doesn't mean every long distance relationship is doomed to fail, because just as you can deviate, you can come together. I don't know the scientific word for that, but you may end up growing into each other again. Unfortunately, the part with that is relationships do end, and when you come to the end of a relationship, it becomes, it's painful. A lot of the times people tend to give up or not give up fast enough. Something I learned from a good friend of mine and another good friend of mine. They're both friends. Ooh, you farted on me. Ooh, gross. But something I learned from two friends of mine who were dating. It got to the point where she was done with the relationship, but he wasn't. And she wanted to break up. My wife and I, my ex-wife and I, talked to her and told her not to do it. Told her, stick out the relationship. Maybe it'll work out. Unfortunately, all that led to was both of my friends, hating each other. Although, to be honest, now that it's even longer than I've been single, now that enough time has passed, at least one of them doesn't hate the other, but doesn't really think about the other. And that's good. The other one does kind of, mention of the other person inspires anger and vitriol, despite how much both of them have grown since then. They only see the negative person. But it's neither here nor there. I'm not spreading any rumors about other people's relationships. But when it comes to a relationship, if you don't grow together, your relationship is better off done. And if you feel like you don't need to be in this relationship or you don't want to be in this relationship, you have two options. One is to take a break and see how that feels. And it's the whole, if you love someone, let them go. And if they can return, then they were yours forever. But if they never come back, then you never had them, something like that. I don't remember the phrase. But if you love something, let it go. Take a break. And if it was meant to be, it'll start up again and the relationship will go. In my opinion, when it comes to any sort of relationship, any sort of lasting relationship, it cannot start with a, hey, how you doing? It has to start with I should say, hey, how you doing? It has to start with a basis of friendship. Friendship building into a relationship, a dating relationship, which builds into a marriage, which builds into you two dying together in your beds, holding each other's hands and saying, I wish I'd have gone jet skiing, Mom. Because that's what old people want, right? But I feel like there needs to be friendship as a basis before it goes into a relationship. Now that isn't necessarily a requirement, because I have seen some relationships that didn't start out as friendships go on to be incredibly strong relationships. I have, however, seen more often relationships that didn't start with friendship ending poorly. Because they know nothing about each other and jumped right into trying to date. And it's all about flexibility. And that is part 3, flexibility. Like I said, people change and people grow and people will be different from the beginning of their relationship to the end of the relationship, if there is an end. Hopefully there isn't. We always hope there isn't. But one of the important things to do is to stay flexible. A relationship, in my opinion, is a 50-50. Both partners giving 100% throughout the relationship, right? No. It is a 50-50 race. It is a 100% total relationship. Two people involved giving as much as they can. Now, unfortunately, sometimes you can't give 100%. Sometimes you can give 10%. And yes, that means the other person is going to have to give 90%, and vice versa. And 50-50, 60-60, 70-70, etc., 70-30, etc., you know what I mean. And that sort of thing is going to happen from time to time. And this doesn't mean that your relationship is ending. If somebody's giving 10% and you're giving 90%, it doesn't mean the relationship is over. Because sometimes you just need a break. Sometimes you need to take a step back. You need to breathe. Sometimes you need room. Especially, like, if I were to start dating again, it would be a culture shock, because I have been so long just myself, just relying on who I am to live my life. So for me to put myself into another relationship would be hard. Having lived solo for so long, then to have to adjust to living a duo life, two people. That might require a lot of growth and flexibility on my part, because I would have to go back to knowing what it's like to share my life with somebody. Doesn't mean it's impossible, and honestly I hope it isn't, because I really would like to date again and have somebody love me again, because especially lately I've been feeling very much like nobody really cares about me. I feel like I'm a teenager again, be like, nobody cares about me. You don't understand. But in a more depressed way. But yes, sometimes it's going to be an imbalance. Sometimes you're going to be giving more, sometimes they're going to be giving more. But the important part is to find the balance within the imbalance. If the relationship is constantly you 90, them 10, it was fated to fail. Other examples being different, like if you're dating a physically challenged person, then more burden is going to fall on you to complete things, to get things done, to give more of the relationship, and that is something you accept when you enter the relationship. Which brings me to probably number 4. I don't know what number I'm on. Is it's not how much you can take, but how much you are willing to take. Using myself again as an example, when I was dating, or not dating, when I was married to my wife, my ex-wife there, again, not really divorced, just separated for the last decade. Why can't there be a common law divorce like there is a common law marriage? I mean, we've been separated for 10 years. We haven't even lived with each other that long. But anyway, not important. Another ramble for another time. But anyway, my ex-wife used to always send me to the kitchen to get her a glass of water. A very small, minuscule thing. Easy to do. Get up, go get water, come back, give it to her, etc. Or a drink. Not necessarily water because she doesn't like water, so it was kind of hard to actually get her to drink water. Another story for another time, but anyway. And this was always the thing. Hey, can you go get me something to drink? Hey, can you go get me something to drink? Hey, can you go get me something to drink? Then turn it around. Hey, hon, can you go get me something to drink? Now, we actually had a bit of an argument about that. The fact that I'm always getting up to get her something to drink, but then I asked her to get me something to drink, and she didn't. Get it yourself. And that's where you start to find the imbalances. I accepted the fact that I would be getting up to get her a drink, and she wouldn't be getting up to get me something. It's frustrating, it's annoying, and I pushed that well past my breaking point, because it's not about what I can take. It's about what I'm willing to take. And some relationships require that. And like I've always said, is a good relationship requires work. Because again, 2 people. It's not just you and how you feel. It's about them and how they feel. Going back a little bit to the whole idea of trust brings us to part 75. And the idea that trusting your partner is important. And yes, apart from communication, the most important part of a relationship is trust. It's harder if you're entering into a relationship with someone like me to gain my trust. The very fact that I have let you into my life, the very fact that I have decided that, okay, yes, we can date, is a huge step for me. Because like I mentioned, I haven't dated in over 10 years, and there are various reasons for why not. One of those being the fact that I'm a fat, balding, middle-aged man. Middle-aged. I think middle-aged is like 45. But that is one of the reasons, but not a very big reason. Because if you work at it, you can get past that. And women will see past that, or your effective other gender will see past that. So that is one of the big issues, but that is one of the issues, but that is such a small issue when it comes to dating for me. I'm not going to go into the rest of them because some of them involve me talking about other people, and I don't want to do that. But big thing for me is trust. I don't trust people, and I don't trust people very easily. And so breaking through to get just me to date you is one thing, but getting me to trust you would be even harder. I'm going to give you a little bit because I know you're working at it, and I want to work on it too. If I'm going to be dating somebody, it means that I want a relationship. I want to be dating somebody. So I'm going to be giving you some stuff. Giving you some of my heart, as it were. Here, have a piece. Have a little bit more. And it's going to take months, maybe even years, to fully get me to open up where I'm comfortable and trust you enough. I know it's weird. Okay, so going back to part 76, or part 77 now. I forget the numbers, the arbitrary numbers I'm choosing. But anyway, communication. Now, thing of it is, there is a rule when raising children that applies the same here. Also applies in the workforce if you want to use it, which is punish the pattern, not the act. Now, going back to what I was talking about the glass of water, or the drink, as it were. Can you go get me a drink? Sure. Can you go get me a drink? Sure. Can you go get me a drink? Sure. Hey, can you get me a drink? No, get it yourself. Can you go get me a drink? Sure. Can you go get me a drink? Sure. That is a pattern. Now, I'm not saying punish your wife or your girlfriend or whatever if she never gets you to drink. But in this case, broadening the term of punishment is the communication rule. If I get frustrated because I'm always getting her a drink and she never gets me one, well, I'm going to let that build up until I get upset about it and we start screaming and yelling at each other? No. We're going to talk about it. Like if she asks me to get her a drink 4 or 5 times in a row and I ask her to get me a drink once and she says no, then there's a problem there. And I'm going to be like, hey, I'm always getting up to get you a drink. Why can't you get me this one the one time? Of course, wording it differently because you always want to be, you want to do the I statements. The I statements. I feel like you're using me instead of us having a co-relationship here. I feel like I'm taking a lot of the burden here, and I just asked you for a drink, and I feel like you don't really want to work on things. Now, of course, that again going a little bit farther into what we. if that's what you're talking about, then there's more of an issue to it. But it's always about communication because when it comes to a situation, if you let it escalate to the point where it frustrates you, annoys you, makes you angry, then you've already gone too far. You've already pushed the boundaries too much. And you've already allowed them to get away with it, as it were. Turning yourself into a doormat, which is not okay. Because, again, two people. Both people's emotions are valid. Say it again for the people in the back. Both people's emotions are valid. So if you let them turn you into a doormat, then that's what they're going to see you as. And if you stop them and you let them know that this is not how you want it to be, even if you are always willing to get them a drink, but they don't get you a drink, then you're letting them take advantage of you, and you shouldn't ever do that. Because both people's emotions are valid. So treat them well, and they should treat you well. Okay, so arguments. Part 922. Arguments are going to happen. They will always happen. You cannot avoid arguments. Anyone in a relationship who says they have never argued with their spouse or relationship partner are lying or a ticking time bomb ready to explode, because there is always something that's going to bother you, and there's always something that's going to bother other people, your partner. You got to remember, arguments are going to happen, and they are healthy. You should argue. If you don't argue, there's something wrong. And of course, we all know that the number one thing we're going to argue about is going to be money, and the next being, intimate relationships probably, and occasionally there's going to be the moments of jealousy and whatnot. Like, I can't believe you looked at that girl's butt. I can't believe you looked at that man's package. I can't believe you were ogling that guy who was ironing shirts. I feel unvalidated. But yeah, arguments happen, and you should not avoid them. But what you should do is you should work through them. Do not let yourself get too angry. And if your partner seems like they're getting too angry about it, take a moment and breathe. Do not use the triggering words of, "Are you done?" or things like that. No, because they are your partner. They are your lover in the night, your intimate relationship. You love them, which means you don't want to hurt them. And moreover, you don't want to get hurt by them. So what you're going to do is you're going to talk about it. And if you can't talk because you're both really angry, take a moment. Take a breather. If you need to sleep on the couch for the night, sleep on the couch. Remember, you love this person. I would very much say it's okay to go to bed angry on occasions, but never, ever, ever neglect saying I love you. Doesn't matter how angry you are at the person. If they say I love you, say I love you too. If you're going to bed for the night and you're both still riled up from the argument and you haven't resolved anything, tell her, I love you, I'll see you in the morning. Tell them, I love you, I'll see you in the morning. Because if you want your relationship to work, you need to work on it. And if you love the person, you're going to work on it. But anyway, apart from all that I think is all the topics and tips I've got for dating. Again, remember, 35-year-old divorced man who hasn't dated in over a decade. Not a bad person, but, some things remain the same. As things change, they remain the same. What tips do you have to share with the world at large about dating? make sure to leave those in the comment section down below. But anyway, apart from all that, that's going to be it for me for today. Thank you all so much for joining me for this episode of The Community Show. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, go poke that like button for me. If you'd like to see more from me, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And of course, as always, you are more than welcome to leave a comment in the comment section down below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And when I can, if I can. All that jazz, and tune in next time for another topic, another time. And until then, good night.